Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to completely decode the often chaotic world of human emotions. If you've ever felt totally overwhelmed or just plain confused by what you're feeling, you are absolutely not alone. We're going to bring some serious clarity to all of that today by actually mapping out your mind. And we're doing it using this brilliant visual clinical tool based on a grid of energy and pleasantness. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's a quick look at our agenda for The Explainer today. Number 1, the chaos of emotions. Number 2, mapping your mind. Number 3, the 4 emotional zones. And number 4, are your needs met? All right, starting us off with Section 1, the chaos of emotions, navigating our ancient survival mechanisms.
So it's incredibly common to feel like your emotions are just this messy, confusing tangle. But the thing is, they actually evolved for a wildly different world than the one we're living in today. The author Mark Manson puts this so brilliantly in the source text we're looking at. He says, our emotions are important, but they're also kind of dumb. They overreact to things by design. They evolved to keep us alive when we were hunting water buffalo on the savannah. Think about that for a second. Our ancient, hardwired biology literally demands that we run away when we're scared, or break things when we're angry. And hey, that was fantastic for dodging predators in the wild, but it causes some massive problems when you're just trying to deal with a jammed office printer or, a passive-aggressive email.
And this right here brings us to a constant dialogue, honestly, often a fierce tension, that's happening in your brain right now. On the left side, we've got the emotional mind. These are those ancient survival mechanisms we just talked about. They're quick, they're intense, physically reactive, and yeah, they overreact by design. But then, over on the right side, we have the rational mind. This is the part of you that handles complex, logical reasoning, thinks about consequences, and basically just tries to regulate and adapt to the situation. And we have to realize, the goal here isn't to let your rational mind win and just suppress all your emotions. Both of these systems have immense value. True resilience actually comes from getting these two minds to align and play on the same team.
Moving right along to Section 2, mapping your mind, from chaos to clarity.
So how do we actually get those two minds to align? Well, enter the mood meter. This is a visual, clinical tool used to recognize and categorize emotions, and it consists of a grid divided by your energy level and your level of pleasantness. Now, I want to emphasize right up front, this tool is a map, it is not a diagnosis. It's just so powerful because it takes all those swirling, abstract feelings bouncing around inside your head and grounds them into a totally tangible visual map. It literally gives you a physical way to pinpoint exactly what you're experiencing in real time.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how we actually build the foundation of our emotional map. The mood meter is built on two specific axes, energy and pleasantness. If you look at the high and low levels, high energy means you feel alert, tense, or physically active. Low energy, that means you feel drained, relaxed, or physically still. Then we cross that with pleasantness. High pleasantness means your overall state is positive, agreeable, and enjoyable. Low pleasantness means things feel negative, unpleasant, or just downright uncomfortable. You intersect those two dimensions, and boom, you've got your grid.
Which brings us to Section 3, the 4 emotional zones, the colors of your inner world.
Let's take a vibrant little tour through the 4 colored quadrants created by these axes. First up, let's look at the top right, the yellow zone. This is high energy combined with high pleasantness. When you're in this zone, it basically feels like pure sunshine. You're experiencing joy, excitement, or a real deep sense of celebration. You usually land in the yellow zone when you've just crushed a big goal, got some amazing news, or you're eagerly anticipating something wonderful that's coming your way. Now, moving down to the bottom right quadrant, we find the green zone. This is low energy, but it keeps that high pleasantness. Being in the green zone is kind of like relaxing on a blanket in a really peaceful park. You feel calm, content, and completely grounded in the present moment. Your mind is totally at ease, you aren't trying to fix or solve anything, you are just peacefully existing.
All right, let's shift all the way over to the bottom left quadrant, the blue zone. Here we have low energy and low pleasantness. This is, your classic blue mood. When you reside in this zone, you feel sadness, disappointment, or a really heavy sense of disconnection. Your energy is drained, and your thoughts tend to turn deeply inward, often hyper-focusing on past failures, loss, or just feelings of emptiness.
Finally, we jump up to the top left quadrant, the red zone. High energy and low pleasantness. This is quite literally seeing red. When you're in this zone, you feel anger, fear, or really intense stress. These are highly charged emotions that dramatically spike your alertness and create severe physical tension in your body. It's basically your ancient survival mechanism kicking into absolute overdrive.
Now, having these 4 broad colored zones is incredibly helpful for sure, but we can get even more precise. Look at these specific feeling words mapped out to each zone. The yellow zone gives us words like ecstatic and inspired. Green gives us balanced and serene. Down in blue, we've got apathetic and desolate, and red includes anxious and enraged. Accurately labeling these specific words within their colored zones gives some much-needed context to our emotions. It completely bridges the gap between a vague thought like, ugh, I feel bad, and a precise understanding of what is actually happening in your mind.
And that leads us to Section 4. Are your needs met? The true meaning behind the colors.
Okay, so we've mapped out the zones brilliantly, but why do we actually land in these specific colored zones to begin with? Well, the crucial point is this. Look closely at how the mood meter divides the left and right sides. On the left side, the blue and red zones, you land here when your core needs are not being met. Feeling desolate or enraged? That indicates a lack of safety, connection, or resources. It's a literal biological signal that something feels fundamentally off or missing. Conversely, on the right side, the yellow and green zones, you land here when your needs are met. Feeling upbeat or peaceful indicates fulfillment, security, and accomplishment. This right here is a massive aha moment. Your emotions aren't just random static. They are incredibly sophisticated indicators telling you whether your biological and psychological needs are currently satisfied.
So now that you know how to read your emotional indicators, what comes next? The source text outlines this next phase perfectly within the RULER framework. Look at step 1, recognize. That is exactly what you are doing by mapping your mind on the mood meter. That initial recognition unlocks all the subsequent steps. You understand your feelings, label them accurately, express them properly, and finally regulate your behavior. Because the truth is, you simply cannot regulate an emotion that you haven't recognized. And the mood meter is the absolute master key to that very first step.
I want to conclude this explainer with an incredibly empowering realization straight from our source text. Emotions are like winds that blow through you. They are vital indicators, absolutely, but they are not dictators of your behavior. They send you valuable data about your needs, but they do not control your actions. So visualize that grid right now. What is your emotional wind telling you today? Are your needs being met? And most importantly, are you going to let the wind push you around, or are you going to use this map to adjust your sails? Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.